Welcome to Season 4 of the Changing Earth podcast with Sara F. Hathaway, blending survival fiction and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sara F. Hathaway.
Hello and welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 146, Season 4, Episode 22. So I want to first start out by thanking you all, everybody who went out and downloaded the free copy of the second edition of Day After Disaster. Good job. Thanks for going out and doing that. And please head over and give it some reviews. That will really help me out over on Amazon. So I appreciate that. I want to thank you. Well, I started doing some jiu-jitsu training. So I'm training on the ground now as well as on my feet. That way I'm going to be a well-rounded, self-defense person, I guess. I will be ready to defend myself from both areas. My instructor really recommended that I get out there and do that. And let me tell you, it was a butt-kicking night. So it's exciting to be doing something new. And I encourage everybody to get out there and do something. Keep your body in shape, keep your mind in shape, and learn how to defend yourself if you need it. So this summer, got a lot going on. I want to go out and do some shooting classes. We're going to be doing some camping. We got a lot of good stuff planned for the summertime. So we're getting ready to rock and roll. Got our property pretty much under control as far as weed abatement goes. And so I've just been out doing some wild foraging and having some fun and doing that kind of stuff. So I hope you got some cool summer plans going on. And I'll keep you informed of everything as I go. Definitely will let you know about the class that I'm going to take over at Tactical Response. That's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to it because it's my 20th year wedding anniversary this year in September, and so we're going to do it as a little fun trip for me and my husband. Last week on the Changing Earth podcast, we were with Master Sergeant Bennett. They made it back into the mercenary camp in Reno. This was a pretty cool, sequence to write the community, how the refugees are moving and what's going on. So really getting jazzed on these concepts, and we're gonna stick there for a little bit, just a little peek into what's going on in Book 5. So a lot of fun to write those sequences, but also a lot of fun to write the battle sequences, and that's where Vince and Erica are headed right now. They are headed into battle at the southern wall, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Today, I have Ben Brenham on my show. Love getting together with Ben. We always have a great time and some really awesome conversations, and I learn a ton from this guy every time that I talk to him about shooting and things like that. So he's trying to get a California class together. Hopefully I'll be able to go out there and do that. I'd be impressed to see him make it into California to do a shooting class here. So that would be really, really awesome, and I would definitely make it down there for that. So he's on the show today, and I want to preface this show. I want to let you know this show is purely a fictional show. This is just a exercise of thought, and we're going to go into some deep, dark areas. So I want you to know that this is just a thought exercise, and nobody should take this episode seriously, that it really was just a thought exercise and kind of exploring different scenarios that might happen if things were to go bad in our country. With that said, let's go ahead and get a word from our sponsor this half hour. Our sponsor this half hour is the Owl Emergency Opener. Everyone should have an escape tool readily available in their vehicle in case of emergency situation. Your escape tool should be within the recommended reach of 8 to 16 inches from you. That means the flashlight that you have in the back of your car is not going to cut it. You need something that's closer. Now you can purchase Owl and rest assured that in such cases like power failure or a car accident, you will be able to cut your seatbelt and break your window for a quick, safe escape. Owl sits discreetly on your sun visor. It's flat, the size of a credit card, and be carried with you or stuck to your cell phone in case of you're traveling as a passenger. It is the most discreet escape tool available. Owl takes no strength to use, so you absolutely do not have to have crazy muscles. It requires no strength, and the glass breaks outward. Owl is the best gift you can give yourself and someone you love. They always have great deals going on over there, and the deal that I have for you, if you use the coupon code Changing Earth free shipping, you're going to get free shipping on your Owl products. So that's Changing Earth free shipping. You can click on the link that I have on the blog or in my newsletters or on my website, all over the place. Get into Owl, use Changing Earth free shipping, get your Owl emergency escape tool. It is definitely worth every penny that you're going to pay for it. And it's just one of those, it's just another insurance policy. You hope that you're never going to need it, but if you do, it's right there for you. So go ahead on over, check that out. Changing Earth, free shipping. Get your free shipping. Get your Owl escape tool. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into chapter 22 of Battle for the South. Chapter 22. Much to the dismay of Eli Sallow, Erica was reveling in cheers from the troops as they drove by the Jeep she was in, headed to take a defensive stance behind the tank. She, Vince, and Kyle were awaiting specifics on what their job was going to be. Eli had avoided the interaction until now. "You three are going with B Squad to clear the trenches on the left side of the gate," he told Vince flatly, avoiding eye contact with Erica. "Our tank should be able to take the concrete gun embankments to the left and right of the gate. We need you to clear the trench and infiltrate the embankments to the left and right of the railroad tracks. You will be reporting to Franz Johansson. Take the embankments and head back to the gate. You'll be under heavy sniper fire until Cassidy's main squad can eliminate the threat. Are we clear?" Eli asked, making sure they knew their task. "Yes, sir," Vince and Kyle replied. "Can you handle that, Miss Hero?" Eli asked, looking directly at Erica. "Yes, sir," Erica replied respectfully. Eli walked away briskly to join the men at the lead of the line. "Well, he certainly has no love lost for you, babe," Vince teased. "I get it," Erica retorted. They joined the squad and slowly crept up the highway. Each Jeep was armed with machine guns on the ready. They awaited the flare. "What are you doing?" Vince wondered, watching his wife dig to the bottom of her pack. "The thermal cloaks." Erica was pulling hers out. "The what?" Kyle wondered. "They're a handy piece of tech we got off a guy in the Badlands," Erica answered him, watching Vince dig his out. Even though Erica had done her best to try to clean them in the sink at the governor's compound, they still stunk of death from their trip here. "Cool," Kyle said, carefully steering the Jeep while looking at the cloaks. The sensors detect the ambient temperature around the cloak and change the temperature to match, concealing the user, Vince told him, strapping the cloak over his gear. The conversation ended abruptly as an explosion was heard in the distance. The flare went up and the caravan started rolling. As they neared the gates, gunfire was coming from everywhere. The Jeeps blasted at the feds on the side of the roads as they kept creeping closer. Machine gun fire spewed from the embankments on either side of the gate until, boom! The tank blasted one of them into smithereens. Kyle brought the Jeep to a halt, and Erica jumped out, following tightly behind Vince. They were bringing up the rear of B Squad, and Erica jumped over the dead bodies, staring up at her as they struggled to keep up. Sniper fire rained down, taking out militia soldiers as they ran through the trenches to the first embankment. Franz ordered half of the group up the hill to infiltrate it. The rest of the group pressed on. Then BAM! Erica was blown forward as an explosion ignited the embankment behind them. They dove into the tunnel under the railroad tracks as the sniper fire pinned their troop in tight. "Damn that sniper," Franz cursed. "We've got to get that embankment taken out so our men can exit from the back of the train." "We've got this," a cloaked Vince said as he approached Franz. "The sniper won't see us." Erica was right at his side, explosives ready, machine gun held fast. "We've taken the trench guards. Go for it," Franz replied, as the two ran forward in their shrouds. Vince and Erica slunk to the side of the trench under the encampment and stood on the bloodied bodies of the dead federal soldiers. "You ready?" Vince asked, his eyes wide, body pumping with adrenaline. "Let's do this," Erica replied. The gunfire was deafening and the muzzle flashes blinding as they launched out of the trench. They ran across the expanse as fast as their legs would carry them and hid on either side of the door. The snipers hadn't seen them. Pulling explosive grenades from their belts, they each launched one inside of the embankment and ran back to the cover of the trench. The structure blew into a ball of flames, scattering concrete around them. The militia soldiers poured out of the boxcars with guns blazing at the feds coming out of the railroad gate. Cassidy must still be alive, Erica noted as the sniper fire ended. Well done, Franz announced as he turned to lead the team back through the trench. As they approached the gate, it began to open, and Erica watched a large military truck roll onto the street armed with what Erica thought was a huge cannon. The massive gun fired and ripped right through the tank, turning it into an enormous ball of flames. Then the oversized barrel lined up with a row of jeeps and ripped right through the entire row like they were made of balsa wood. All that was left was flaming metal, glowing in the distance. In a trance from the horror unfolding, a large explosion suddenly hit the ground in front of them. Erica was blown off her feet. In a daze, her ears ringing, she tried to see through the dust. Soldiers were at the gates with rocket launchers. Getting her bearings, she checked to see if Vince was all right. He was stunned, but up in a moment. Kyle was alive, but unconscious. The dirt hovered thickly in the air, concealing the team from afar, but Erica could see through it. She saw Franz's body blown in half, along with two other men that were leading the charge. "They won't fire at the wall," Erica frantically told Vince. "Let's go," Vince responded, shouldering Kyle's limp body. "Come on, guys, this way," Erica yelled to the remaining soldiers in the trench. They joined a large group of militiamen along the wall as the cannon blasted again. "What kind of gun is that?" Erica wondered. "I don't know, but if they don't take it out, it's going to destroy all our heavy artillery," Vince answered. They pressed forward, watching Eli's soldiers flee their vehicles and pressing forward on foot. Blam! Another blast from a rocket launcher exploded in the distance, shrouding the view of the jeeps in the dust. Philip Johnson's team had engaged from the northern side of the wall now. Most of the militia artillery was destroyed to the south, so the Fed's main gun relocated to attack the new northern threat. The rocket launchers guarding the gate divided their squad in half to fight both sides. As the militia's explosive charges destroyed the main gate, Erica swarmed towards it. Cheers began to sound as the control vehicle for the main weapon was taken, and the militia took the wall. Vince grabbed Erica up into a huge hug. "We did it!" he yelled victoriously. The joy was palpable in the air amongst the smell of gunpowder and death. Erica stared out at the bodies littering the ground. The realities of war were sinking in, but she shook it off. Now was not the time for mourning the lost. There would be plenty more battles to fight for the future of their country. Well, that was a fun scene to write, but really, really eerie and scary at the same time. You know, I've talked to a lot of vets, and there's just a certain look in guys' eyes when they talk to you, or gals' eyes when they talk to you about scenes that they've seen on the battlefield and stuff like that. It's a different type of reality, and I really tried to bring it to light best I could. And like I say, really fun sequence to write. You know, we got the truck with the electromagnetic cannon in there and everything. So did a lot of research, had to figure out, you know, what would be a cool weapon that they have going and these different things. So that was a lot of fun for me to do. However, the concept of the country going up against its citizens was not a very comfortable topic to explore, but that's where we're at in post-apocalyptic fiction. And I wanted to explore the realities of it a little bit more. So today I have Ben Brenham on the show. He's a firearms instructor. He's been in both seasons 2, 3, and 4. He's loved shooting since the first time he pulled a trigger at age 8. During high school, he volunteered at his local PD where he learned more about handguns. He joined the Marine Corps infantry after high school. He was a reserve for 10 years with 2 years of active duty, 1 tour in Iraq in 2003. He worked for an armored car company for almost 7 years, mostly in the LA area of California. During that time, he also got a degree in law enforcement and went through 2 different police academies. Being a cop never worked out, but through it all, he's always been training people to fight. He spent all of 2008 in Iraq again as a private contractor defending a base. There he got to teach and train with the U.S. Army and others. Now he wants to bring that experience and his love of teaching to others. He loves teaching firearms, and he wants the good people of the world to be able to defend themselves. So that is his mission and his purpose in life. And if you want to learn more about Ben, you just head on over to www.modernselfprotection.com. That's www.modernselfprotection.com. Before we get Ben on the show, let's go ahead and introduce our sponsor for this half hour. Our sponsor this half hour is Advantage Gold. And they are very excited to announce a special free gift to all of our podcast listeners that have an IRA, 401k, retirement account. They are giving away a free hardback copy of Jim Rickard's latest book, The New Case for Gold, a $26 value. And I can personally tell you that it's a must read. This free book is brought to you by Advantage Gold and is written by Jim Rickards. For those of you who don't know, Jim Rickards, he is the nation's most vocal and intelligent proponent of the gold standard. Not to mention, he's a national security advisor, Pentagon insider, and financial warfare expert. Before writing his book, Jim wrote 2 New York Times best-selling books, The Death of Money and Currency Wars. Inside The New Case for Gold, Jim turns his attention to the everyday American and how he can use gold, the number one asset in a currency crisis, to not only survive, but thrive in the coming dollar fallout. This book could literally change your life by securing your financial future. This is what you're going to learn when you read it. How to protect your IRA, 401k, or retirement account from the coming dollar collapse, the single greatest buy ever devised for gold, a step-by-step walkthrough of one of Jim's most powerful CIA prediction techniques, the Chinese gold warfare plan that could bring the U.S. dollar holders to their knees, if you're making the number one gold buying mistake, and much, much more. The time to buy gold is right now. You got to secure your finances in something that is not going to lose value, and that something is gold, not the American dollar. And this book is the perfect guide to help you protect your retirement from a pending financial crisis. Jim says, when the collapse happens, it's going to happen quickly. You won't see it coming. There won't be time to run out and buy gold, and it probably will not even be available at that stage. Yes, this hardback book is free to you today, but you got to hurry. Books are limited. They only have a limited number of copies to give away, and these books are going fast. So if you have an IRA, 401k, or retirement account, and you want to learn how to protect your financial future, then this is the best gift you will ever receive. To claim your book, head on over to my website, check out this week's podcast link, and go ahead and click on the link and claim your free book. So just go on over to the blog for this week, click on the link, and you got your free book. Let's go ahead and welcome Ben to the show. Today, I am back with Ben Brenham, host of Modern Self-Protection Podcast. Ben, it is always a pleasure to have you on my show. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today.
Oh, you're welcome, and I'm excited for you and your books that are coming out. They're just awesome.
Thank you. I'm flattered. I've been having a lot of fun with them, and hopefully they pick them up for a TV series eventually. That would be great. So
actually, it would make a great TV series. I didn't even think of that. Well, anybody listening out there from the TV show, you need to get a hold of Sara and get the rights going there.
Let's do it. So, Ben, why don't you catch us up a little bit about what's been going on in your world? I know you have some classes coming up and things like that, and more shooting practice is always good stuff. So why don't you just give us a little catch up, and then we'll jump into the topic today.
Cool. I got 2 classes coming up, one in June, the 23rd and 24th here in San Antonio. I'm teaching that with Bob Main of the Handgun World podcast. Him and I have been doing this thing for a while, and we teach Beyond Concealed Carry. And we've really got the 80-20 of the classes that you need, and this is the class. It'll get you the 20% of everything you need to know to win 80% of the battles you're going to be in. And it's one weekend. You can get up and running as a gunfighter really fast. So I'm really excited about that one. And then I get to teach with a guy named Jody Box in Arkansas. We're going to do another Beyond Concealed Carry class, and we're going to do a more advanced class there. We're going to do from different positions, and we're trying to get a vehicle out there, and it's going to be a lot of blast. He's going to teach you how to shoot really, really fast, and I'm going to teach you how to fight. So that class is going to be in Arkansas in September. if you're in either one of those areas, go to my website, modernselfprotection.com/courses. You'll see when the course is and how to sign up and everything. I guarantee you have a great time and you'll learn some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot about shooting from vehicles lately. It's funny because that topic's come up a lot in the podcast. And I'm like, isn't it loud? No, because your barrel's out the end. And then canting the gun was interesting to learn about the angle, because I'm on a hill when we play airsoft and stuff. So I'm constantly dealing with that canting. I didn't know there was an official term for it, I always tell people that learning firearms is like learning a whole new language.
Yeah, but a lot of the stuff I laugh when I teach new people. It's always stupid stuff. This is the front sight because it's on the front of the gun.
The front. Right.
Yeah, we give really, really complicated names to things. So a cant is just an angle of the gun. But yeah,
right.
You get into the hard science and it throws a lot of things off. And yeah, it's fun. The easiest way is to not cant your rifle or your handgun, and it will always go where it's supposed to.
And it will fire where it's supposed to actually go. Yes. So today we are kind of in a touchy topic, and Vince and Erica, they're headed into this battle for the Southern Wall, and this is the first time that the militia forces are really going up against the remaining federal forces. So I want to preface this episode as, this is an entirely fiction episode, basically. I do not encourage any kind of action against our federal government. We are a republic, and you just get out there and do what you can till the next election time rolls around. So I just really want to preface it with that so that everybody understands that we're talking a fictional topic here, and it's nothing that I'm encouraging people to get out and do. It kind of needs to be said,
Yeah, just make sure this is going to be a thought exercise, not anything that we think you should act on right now.
Exactly. We're definitely not there. We have a long road to walk. So on that note, if the citizens of this country were to arm themselves against the military and the police forces, what kind of numbers are we looking at there? Because obviously, usually battles always come down to a numbers game. And so I think it's relevant to start first with kind of what the numbers are looking like and kind of go from there.
Well, when you get down to it, the numbers on the military and law enforcement side compared to the civilians, they're scary. Right now, we've got about 1.2 million military members active duty and another 800,000 reserves, and that was the end of fiscal year 2017. That's what they were shooting for, which means the military is always off by some. They're probably lower than that. But anyway, that's 2 million active duty military all over the world right now, not here in the United States. And
right.
Sworn police officers on the street, we have with their reserve forces about 900,000 cops. So, and that's the last number I was able to find, and they're not perfect. And there's some more federal law enforcement that I couldn't find numbers on, Border Patrol, FBI, those kind of guys. But, you're looking at 1.2 million military and so 2 million military, 1 million cops. And if you're lucky, another couple 100,000. I remember when Homeland stood up, they were supposed to be 300,000 people strong, and that's not all sworn personnel. That's a bunch of paper pushers, phone answers, payroll people. So out of that, you're probably looking at 50 to 100,000 sworn personnel. So let's call it 3 million cops and military across the United States. For 330 million people, they're less than 1% of the population. That hurts a lot. That's, if a little part of the population decides that they don't want to go along anymore, it's really going to take the rest of the population to help out the military and the law enforcement. They just can't do it with that big a number differential. It's just not going to work. We got 100 million, give or take, maybe 60 million gun owners in America. I've heard the stats from 60 to 100, and anywhere from I think 600 million to 800 million privately owned guns. And I saw some estimate that was like 7.4 billion rounds in civilian hands. I don't know where anybody came up with that large of number, but
right.
How do you count that many? But
yeah.
It's just the numbers are staggering, and they really are against the government. They're staggering. How do you control a population of 330 million people with only 3 million armed law enforcement military people? if they don't want to go along, that's going to be a really hard part. It's just I'm thinking of military stuff and the surge in Iraq and all this stuff. We tried to put so many boots on the ground to overwhelm the population and the people there. And when you have a population that's that small, like in Iraq, compared to what we can do here in the United States, it's
quite a difference.
Yeah, and I'm trying to put it in nice terms, but really the military and law enforcement, this is something the government should really think about. They should be freaking scared if a large part of the population of the United States decided we're not going to play anymore and pick up arms against the government. They're screwed.
It's true. And then, lots of people that I talk with are like, well, they have nuclear missiles. I'm like, they're never going to drop a nuclear missile on a homeland citizen. I mean, that's just ridiculous to even think about. Like, I couldn't fathom that. So we'll get into tools in a minute. The other thing that I was thinking about was the terrain of the United States. You're talking about Iraq. It's a nice small country, like the size of New York, say. About that big.
I think Iraq is actually the same landmass as California.
Okay, so it is a little bit larger, but still, even California would be really, really hard to hold on to.
Yeah, so here in the United States, we're such a huge landmass, not to mention, we have places like Hawaii and Alaska that would just never be touched by a civil war almost. Yep. The soldiers are just never going to get there. But the whole thing is, I was thinking about this question when you sent it to me for the interview, and I'm like, it's not just the terrain. In the military, part of the terrain is every circumstance, and it's going to be the people too. When you look from New York to Texas, and I moved from California in LA area in here to San Antonio, and the people and just the terrain and the culture are so different. The only thing that holds us together is that we're part of these United States. If that becomes a problem, when it starts ripping itself apart and there's a civil war or whatever, 5 states decide we're not going to play anymore and they want to leave the United States and it's no longer the United States, I really don't have much in common with somebody that lives in New York City. They're just... Right. We speak the same language. That's about it. And even then, we don't have the same likes. We don't have the same slang. We could barely understand each other half the time. We'd have to really work at it. So if we're not trying, we never would. So the people would be an issue. And then, the vastness of the terrain, fighting from someplace like New York City. That's, as a soldier, as a Marine, trying to take places in New York and large populations, the only way you'd be able to do it is make it look like World War II and start leveling city blocks and whole neighborhoods to get little populations out. That would be bad. And then you go to the other places like, I don't know, the southern desert here in Texas. It's expansive and huge, and bushes are all about knee-high, and there's no rolling hills or anything. It's just all sand and sun. Then you can go out to where you live in California and find out, people think California's just little, everybody thinks it's L.A., but, man, you go to someplace like Death Valley out there, or the deserts, the high deserts of California are just absolutely miserable to even live in. There's places in the United States that would never be touched because nobody ever wants to go there. You could go hide in the middle of the high desert in California and nobody would probably ever find you. That's
fair enough. Yeah, even the foothill, like the mountainous regions, it's like, good luck. There's all kinds of little caverns and whatnot and great places to hide out, So...
Yeah, that becomes more like Afghanistan, where finding somebody is a problem. The whole world was looking for a couple people over there for how long until we finally got them? So, And
then up north, you have to deal with, the seasons. I mean, in the wintertime, you're not going to be moving through there very quickly, It's freezing cold, and those people know how to survive in that area. But if you've got a force that's coming from down south to try and take somebody in the north out, in Montana or North Dakota in the middle of the winter... that's going to be a really big challenge.
Yeah, and then the other part of that is the military and law enforcement has always done, when there's something big that happens, they pull assets from outside of the area to put them in. United States military, if I live in Military City, USA here, San Antonio, so I know a lot of the active duty military guys. So if we start standing nose to nose and go at it, there's going to be, I know Mike. He's the major over there on the base. Am I going to actually shoot Mike? And Mike knows me as Ben. Is Ben actually going to shoot me? The military knows that that's a major issue. So they will send forces from outside of the areas. So if they wanted to take Texas and San Antonio, they'd bring forces in from California and Fort Polk, Louisiana, and stuff that's where we wouldn't know each other. But then if you come from, I don't know, Alaska, there's actually a huge base up there for the Army that deploys all the time, and they're kind of a force in readiness. If you took those boys from Alaska and dropped them here into the South Desert of Texas,
right,
they're going to be absolutely miserable. And in the summer, they're just going to bog down and be done. They're not going to be able to do anything. We're here in Texas. We're used to the heat. We know how to deal with it. We know the water tricks and all that other stuff. So it's a twofold problem for the military. Anybody that wants to take a large region like that is that you got to get acclimated, and you got to get people to know the area. And if they know the area, they know the people. And then if they know the people, it gets hard to put the huge, let's say, put the boot down on people. I mean, it's possible. It's happened in places in the past, but I think that would be a huge issue. And military leaders, I know them because I work with them. They would try to take the forces from outside as far away as they could and drop them into other places to work. And it would be a total disaster at the beginning until the guys coming in from the outside of the region could get acclimated, learn the terrain, learn kind of the language, and learn everything and get up to speed.
So the only way that I would argue your point there a little bit is that it's my opinion. Everybody's like, oh, well, they'd go martial law, martial law. Everybody wants to talk about martial law. Well, with our expansive region, with our expansive country, that's really, really hard for them to do unless there was enough uprising of, our, I don't want to stereotype, but the less wealthy people. So we have Southern California is a mess right now. We have a huge population of homeless, poor people. So if you have those people kind of start rising up, then the middle class, the upper class, they start getting concerned for their safety, right? So they're going to say, hey, we want martial law. We want soldiers in the streets to control this. So if they call the soldiers in, then everybody starts getting used to them being there, their appearance. Now we have soldiers in the streets. And that to me is where it could get really, really dicey. That to me is like the fine line that I kind of foresee in the future. If we ever cross that line, it would be like, whoa, this is a slippery slope right here.
Yeah, all of this is kind of dark and nasty. And then use the lower class against the middle class. I mean, that was a horrible thing back in Nazi Germany when it first started. Sure, they were rounding up all the Jews and they were disappearing, but the trains were running on time for the first time since World War I. So most of the middle class and upper class in Germany were just kind of like, well, I guess. And they just kind of let it go. Yeah. So, and we have people, I'm talking Nazis and the horrible, horrible people, right? Yeah. Right. Look at some of your neighbors. I'm sorry that some of them wouldn't mind at all if some of us lower class people, I don't know, lately I'm very upset that the NRA are being called terrorist again, because once again I'm being called a terrorist, and I'm like, I fought those people for like 10 years. I went over there. I killed people. I watched people being killed. I did all that stuff in the name of fighting terrorists, and now you want to call me one. So it gets me very upset. But we start doing that, and it's like, how many of your neighbors out there right now would be fine with rounding up 5 million NRA members and making them disappear because they're quote-unquote terrorists? Yeah, so it's
the undesirables.
Yeah, there's a good way to put it. It's been put a billion ways in books, but right now it's terrorism, and it's that's the real world part of it. It's kind of scary. And there's more PETA members now that have done mass shootings than NRA members. It's true. It's sad, but it's true. So, and then another thing, I mean, just if we're going to go on this topic a little bit, another thing, out here in California, so they're trying to tighten the requirements, the restrictions on concealed carry. Well, how many concealed carry people went out and did this? None. So why would you be tightening up the concealed carry? Those are the people that are there to defend you. So I agree with you. It's definitely going to be an interesting play to see how this fuels out. And it's my opinion, we've got to just keep with the young, educating the young on
gun culture and the importance of our freedoms, and so that they understand why it's so important to protect into the future.
Yeah, and it's hard for them to understand, especially, and I see the whole part after Parkland, all the marches and everything. It's hard to tell somebody that's afraid for their life that, yes, your freedom is more important than your safety. Yes, you'll never truly be safe. And that's, as a security guy, I go on that all the time. I go overseas and I take over security on a whole base with a bunch of soldiers, thousands of them. I talk to the colonel, highly educated man, awesome guy. And he goes, I just want all my soldiers to be 100% safe on my base. Well, dude, I can't control if somebody trips falling down the stairs and breaks their arm.
Right.
You roll out of bed in the morning, you take some risk. And that's just kind of the way the world goes. And
that's true.
So we're back to that here is, the more freedoms we have, the more risk that something could go wrong. If we take away the speed limits on the highway, that would be cool because I like driving really, really fast. But
me too.
It would go, your risk of driving and getting hurt would go up because you'd have people like driving here in Texas. It's big trucks, and I have a big truck. I love my big truck. But honestly, at 90 miles an hour, it's getting pretty unsafe. And so you'd have guys in 4x4s jacked up doing 110, 120 on the highway where anything happens and they roll it over and take out 3 vehicles next to them. So, yeah, the more freedom you have, the more dangerous your life is. So we try to mitigate that danger is all we can do. And that's what I do as a security professional is try to mitigate the danger and move it down. But, how far are we willing to go? There's got to be a balance. And I'm with you. The balance is going the other way. We seem to be trying to trade our freedom for safety. And
I know. I'm like, why are you using your freedoms to remove freedoms? That doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, but I'm just like, my brain's in a pickle on this one. Okay, so let's go back to a fun topic of.
Let's go back to our thought experiment here instead of what's going on in the real world.
Yeah. Let's forget real world. Let's go back to fiction. So we talked a little bit about how many guns are in the hands of private ownership already. So do you think, like, caliber-wise, performance-wise, that armament would be able to stand up to the armament that the federal government possesses?
Yes, and that's an easy answer, yes, because of a bunch of things. One, it's being done overseas right now. The Iraqis have a little bit more than the American population does. They have RPGs and some full auto AKs and stuff. Mm-hmm. But some of the most dangerous weapons out over there. When I was there was a sniper using an M16A2 service rifle that was killing soldiers. And he was super good with it, and it was one shot, one kill. So you look at the M16A2 service rifle, which is just an AR-15 with a 20-round or a 20-inch barrel and open sights. The A2 has the happy switch that goes burst, but here he was using it single fire. So he was really, really worrying the soldiers, and we were pretty scared of him for a while until somebody got him. But he took out a lot of people here in the United States. Easy one-shot rifles. We got deer rifles everywhere. Guys that know how to use them, and a tank is an awesome tool. But unless you're willing to destroy buildings with tanks, the tank is just a show of force. Unless you're willing to run over people in cars, the tank is just this big vehicle that moves around the streets and is actually a pain in the butt to get around small streets and in places, and it ruins everything it rolls over. So you destroy some of the infrastructure there. In Iraq in 2003, that was one of the things. We rolled up with all the tanks and armored vehicles and everything, and that was the first thing to be cycled out. At first were the M1 Abrams and all the tracked vehicles, because they just rip up the roads and they rip up all the infrastructure. So, a lot of everything has ups and downs in the world. And unless you're willing to, we talked about nuclear weapons a little bit, unless you're willing to turn the city into glass, that weapon really has no meaning in any discussion. And that's part of our problem. And I kind of like Trump for that, and everybody was yelling at him during the election. I'm not going to take anything off the table. Well, as soon as you tell your enemy, we have all these nuclear weapons, but we'd never use them, Well, what good does any having a nuclear weapon do? And yeah, I honestly don't think, even in any fiction, I can't see a plausible scenario where we'd actually have a nuclear weapon dropped on the United States by the United States military. I think there's too many guys in there that were like me that would be like, yeah, I'm just not going to push that button.
Yeah.
You know, launching against the Russians or against somewhere in the Middle East, it's going to haunt me for a while, but I might push the button. But here on the United States, let's nuke New York. No, there's a bunch of guys from the top to the bottom that are just going to be no. And remember, the guys at the bottom, those sergeants and stuff, my level guys, they're the ones that know how all that crap works. I know you got the field manual and everything, but the guy wrote the field manual. So when he says no, and you say you're going to do it anyways, and he like breaks the key off and does and breaks the system, you're screwed. So
right
on that, so a lot of the weapons that our military has for open battle aren't going to be used because of the way they devastate our infrastructure. And then on the other half, I hope that's a stupid way to put it. If we did do a civil war like that, I don't think anybody would come out to go toe-to-toe with the U.S. military because you're just going to be wiped out. So it would be more insurgencies, small battles here and there throughout cities, tag and run stuff. And, on that are civilians. You think, military, civilians, they're totally different. We have all these guys that were in the military like me that got out and possess all this knowledge. I mean, I wrote some books for the Marine Corps, so I know kind of how they think and what they do. And when you got guys that got out that wrote their manuals on what to do, they kind of know how to defeat them too. So we have a lot of knowledge out there that would make this a really, really bloody battle. And anytime I talk about this honestly with people and they're like, well, yeah, maybe we just need to have civil war. I'm like, whoa, time out.
No,
whoa. Back the truck up. Do you know what kind of, I just like, to me, looking at it, wet finger in the air, if we had a true civil war across the United States and we only lost 50% of our population, we'd be doing good. We'd probably have more like 60 to 80% of the population would be wiped out. So let's not do that.
No, that is not looking good. That's why everybody's like, we just need to rip it down. We just need to rip it down. And I'm like, well, what's your plan for, what are you replacing it with? What's your plan for after? How does that long-term forecast look there? I mean, you can't just rip it down with the idea of nothing, or we're going to return it to what it was. Cool. That sounds real great, but we've marched on, the time has ticked on. So, would that be the case, that it would go exactly back the way it was when you've already seen what happened? I don't know that. And nobody seems to really have an answer to that when you say like, well, then what?
And some of those people don't want to look at it. So, to go back to what you think it used to be in the United States, what percentage of the population are you willing to wipe out and kill?
Right.
And because we can talk, we could talk numbers, but there's, 330 million people in the United States. And if my wet finger in the air, 50% of that's 150 million people dead. That's, oh, wow. That puts World War II and, the Civil War and all that stuff, not even close.
It's a shame.
Yeah. Yep. And with the knowledge base that we have right now and civilian hands and the weapons, I think there would be one heck of a fight, and it could go that way, and it would depend on how many people want to get in. And, if everybody got in, it would be huge, but hopefully it would be a small part of the population fighting another small part of the population, and a lot of the civilians would be left out. But on the other hand,
the 3%ers kind of battling it out.
Yeah. A 3% on each side, that would be nice, because then if they kill each other, and then it's a tactic in war, let them kill each other and then we'll go clean up. But horrible. Even 3% of the population. Well, if 3% goes against 3% of the population, you have a 50% attrition rate. That's really 3% of the population is going to be dead. That's 3 million people. We're looking at, that's worse than Auschwitz there.
Right, that's a lot of body bags. That's not anything to just scoff at. Yeah, that's why I'm like, you guys just got to be at both sides, both sides. You got to be really careful. Just slow down, okay? Because we're all Americans. And I think that's kind of the white horse in the room here, or that the white elephant in the room, is that most of the police officers, military guys, everybody that I've talked to, they swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States. And they hold that oath very, 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 very sacred in their hearts. And so that's why I'm like, I don't think they would ever, side against the people with the government. So that, that's kind of the debate right there in the whole process and the whole thinking process as well. We're just assuming that they would side with the, federal forces.
Yeah. And then on your kind of back to your question on the debate and the civilian armament too, I was a platoon sergeant with an infantry platoon in the Marines here as a reserve. If I got called up here in Texas and we were told that we are going to go do something horrible against the Constitution, I'd tell all my Marines, okay, stand in line, go get your weapons. And some of them are going to protest because they're good people. And I'd say, shut the heck up. Listen to what I'm telling you. Trust your sergeant. Go get your weapons. Go get your ammo draw. Go get your food. Go get your everything. And then it always happens before you step off, you all get in a big formation. Well, once my platoon of 30 Marines had their fill of ammo, weapons, everything, grenades, all of the good stuff, I'd stand up to the commander and go, we're just not doing that, sir. And then what's he going to do? I've got a full,
right.
I've got a full armed platoon behind me that's going to say, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, we don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, but now I've got machine guns and grenades and all sorts
right?
of cool stuff that now
not just your hands anymore.
Yeah, so now we can start
Yep.
using that against the government
Yeah.
if we had to. So yeah, and it's kind of the weapons I think are going to be quickly, very very quickly. They're just going to equalize out what one side will use against the other, and they all have it, and it'll be a pretty even fight on that.
Yeah, that's kind of how I saw it going too. I was like, because everybody's like, well, they have such bigger, better weapons. I'm like, dude, it would not happen that way. You don't want to destroy the country in the process of repressing an insurgents. That just doesn't make sense. And it really, when it comes down to everything, it's all about money. So are they going to destroy all this property just to take care of this problem? And then they're going to have to foot the bill for that later? No. I mean, I'm sorry, it's heartless, but that's the way the world is. When you look at it, it always comes back to money. It's always about what is more profitable. And, that to me just doesn't make sense right there for them to do anything like that.
So you never know what's going to happen on that. That's a pretty good thought question, because we could get 3 different experts in here to give you 3 different answers on that, kind of how that would play out and go around. And let's just hope that one we never figure out, We
Right?
don't need to know
Yeah.
how that one would play out.
Will remain a thought exercise. So, do you think that not only the armaments of the Americans, but also the fact that so many Americans pride themselves on self-sufficiency, does that play a huge role in this battle?
Oh, I think it's going to play a huge role in something like this. If you can feed your family, you can think about other things. If you can't feed your family, something,
Yep.
that's all you're going to care about. So that's going to be very, very different across the country too. Our terrain is going to be different there. In New York, I see the reports and stuff about, and I say reports, to me it's an intelligence report, but it's just news media talking about how people have turned their ovens into where they store their shoes, because they don't have more than one meal on hand to prepare, because they just walk down the street to Papa John's or whatever food place is right there, and they eat out every night. Well, that's great. Those people are going to be screwed if something happens across the United States, because the first thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a food shortage. There always is. In Iraq, when I rolled in there first time as part of the invasion in 2003, those people were starving to death. Some of them were so hungry, we're giving them food so that they could survive. It's a major issue. The first thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a food shortage. How long? I don't know. What's going to happen? I don't know. But if you can take care of yourself for a couple weeks, that gives you a lot of time to prepare and think about other things. If you're hungry in 2 days, the rule of 2 is right there. 2 weeks, you're going to be dead. You're going to have to figure out something fast. So people are going to turn on each other on that stuff. So I think us being self-sufficient is going to play a huge role on what side of the world or what side of this people would end up on. So people in New York that have shoes in their oven and no food in their cabinets, they will side with whoever will feed them. That's all there is going to be to it. Right. People in flyover country, some of those, and I'll use the quotes flyover, but, farmers, my uncle's a farmer. He's a corn farmer, a bean farmer. His family has always had their own huge garden and stuff behind their house, and they've been able to feed themselves they can feed themselves almost indefinitely with kind of how they have set up with, there's like 15 farms and they're all family right there, and they just take care of themselves. They don't need the government. I mean, it would suck for them that they would actually have to work and feed themselves instead of selling off their grain and stuff. But
right.
The government would be like, oh, just be patient, we'll feed you. And they're like, they're going to be sitting at Thanksgiving dinner wondering what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah. Well, how about we feed you?
Yeah. Or that's the other problem. They're going to try to take over the farms.
Right.
That happened in Russia. That one just came out a little while ago, that when it was first taken over, that the Russians had, everything collapsed in communism and then started to build back up, and you had all these farmers that figured out how to make food and make a living, and they were starting to turn into the upper middle class. Well, when that happens in communism, they came in and killed all those guys, and now they're trying to run the farm, and oops, starvation. You just killed all the people that know how to run the farm. And I say killed them, they sent them to the gulags and jail and stuff, and took all their stuff. But those are the guys that knew how to do it. So yeah, that's all of that.
Yeah, not the most intelligent decision there.
No, that's it sounded like a good idea at the time decision, when you look back and you go, oops.
Yeah, see, that's my other caveat to any kind of martial law is that, most of our food, whatever store it ends up in, they usually get delivered to huge distribution warehouses. And then from there, they shuttle it out to the individual stores. So, minus what's coming in from farmers markets, little stuff like that. But on like the large scale, they're going out to these distribution warehouses and then getting sent out from there. So if the government did want to do any kind of a takeover, it'd be a smart idea to take over these large distribution warehouses first, because then you would have control over everybody's food.
Yeah, and then that's going to be a problem too. I mean, just Walmart is one of the largest corporations in the world because they do the efficiency thing. Amazon is one of the largest corporations in the world because, heck, I ordered something last night on Amazon and it was here on my doorstep this morning. I just got a new house and I need to put our TV in and the cord wasn't long enough. And I was like, dang it, where am I going to find one of these specialized, cords that I need this certain length to go through the wall to make it all look pretty for my wife? Amazon. And I ordered it last night sitting on my sofa, and it's here this morning before this interview. They make money, Walmart and them, because they're so efficient in being able to do that crap.
Yes.
If the government took over those warehouses, how efficient do you think the government bean counter would be about getting that stuff delivered to me?
Right. Do you love going to the DMV or whatever your car licensing place is, right?
That is the best, you could ever think of how efficient the government is. Go get your driver's license renewed. Go stand in line.
Yeah, if you don't have an appointment, you're going to be there all day. Even if you do have an appointment, you're still going to be there for 3 hours.
So there's our government efficiency versus the capitalist society efficiency. Hey, if they take over all those warehouses, again, you're going to, and I tell people on my podcast, you're on your freaking own for at least a while.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able, it's going to take the military and the government a week to get that facility up and running again. I mean, if they go in and take it over, it's all going to collapse. And the only short of that is putting a gun to the people's heads that are actually running the facility right now and keeping them doing it. And that's, I guess you could do that, but what's the next shift going to do? You have 3 or 4 shifts running at these places, and, the first shift is held at gunpoint. The second shift is held at gunpoint. Eventually it'll get out, and the third and fourth shift are like, yeah,
we're not coming in.
I'm sick today.
I've been working really hard. I think I need a rest.
Yep. Yeah. Suddenly
Absolutely.
They don't show up. So it's America's self-sufficiency and people being able to take care of themselves and their neighbors. That's a huge thing I do in my podcast, and I love that that's a huge thing in your stuff and your books is that, hey, if you can take care of your neighbor and yourself, you are so far ahead of the power curve, you have no idea. So, yeah, this is going to go back to reality. Anything can happen out there. You know, have a couple weeks of food, have a couple weeks of water, have a couple extra weeks for the people that show up, and have some food that you can hand to your neighbor. It's easier to feed your neighbor than shoot your neighbor.
Yes.
And you know what? If you are feeding your neighbor, guess whose side they're on?
Yep, they're going to help you out. And then you have more forces to join together for gardening activities, for food production stuff that you need manpower for.
For security, for everything.
Exactly.
So then you have all of a sudden friends, and so the dog won't bite the hand that feeds him. Either will your neighbor. Anyways,
right.
So self-sufficiency really would change everything. And I know that did in Iraq too. My personal experience, 2003, the whole country collapsed, and I'm there rolling through, in American tanks and stuff. And I looked at the ones that were self-sufficient versus not self-sufficient, and these people were eking out a living on these little tiny postage stamp-like things in the middle of the desert that somehow they had put up poles to protect it from the desert sands, and they were growing food. Mm-hmm. Well, those people were surviving. Other people in the cities and stuff, they're begging us for food. They're trying to steal food from us, and if we weren't feeding them, probably would have starved to death. Kids would have starved to death. It's pretty horrible when a country goes to war, and unless you've seen it, you don't understand starvation, rampant disease, just everything falls apart. Everything that we think of in here in America. I mean, what are you going to do with your waste? You don't flush the toilet and it doesn't go away anymore.
Right.
Now what?
Yeah. You can't just trench forever.
They try.
I bet. Okay, so one last question that I have for you focuses on the American people themselves. And, do you think that if some type of dictatorial leader came into place, I guess kind of worse, to me, I don't think that Trump or Obama or any president was a dictatorial leader. Actually, I think Congress, the head of our Congress right now, is more of the dictatorial leaders. But regardless, do you think that most Americans would side with that leader because, hey, everything, like you said, in Germany, the trains are on time, everything's running good, why not? Or do you think that they would, realize the importance of individual freedoms and fight for that after there was this is after a nationwide disaster. So, we have this huge disaster hits the country, just like in my books. Do you think that most of the population would side with this new dictator because at least he's got things back together? Or do you think they would be concerned about the individual freedoms?
I think that question would go right back to the last one, the self-sufficiency. Those people in New York that don't have any food, they will side with the dictator. They will give up everything to be fed, to be taken care of. And then the people in flyover country out here, and I know, I'm sorry, I'm being way generalist here just because, I don't know, those people that are self-sufficient, that want to take care of themselves, that want the government to leave them alone, are going to step up and be like, no, I don't think so. And then we're going to get into all these other problems. Even after a huge natural disaster, once things get going again and people can take care of themselves at all, they're not going to put up with a dictator.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. I'd hope.
And I say at least most of us, it might go 50-50 down the lines again because New York has such a huge population. Los Angeles has such a huge population. 50-50 on actual people would be fine with a dictator, but in landmass, you'd only have, some of the
20 maybe, like 20 going with it, 80 against it.
Yeah, so you might. And I was thinking about this just for this interview. The country might end up split into three pieces. You'd almost have the West Coast, the East Coast, and then down the center. And I don't know how you.
I was
do
thinking
that.
like 5. I usually think like 5 because it would be like the West Coast, obviously, even though we would want to get rid of the coastline altogether, but West Coast, East Coast, North, South, and then maybe center even.
Yeah, you'd have the East Coast that I think would go up a little bit over into Illinois and a little bit of that area, and then Florida would probably want to be left alone, and they'd side with the center of the country. And then you'd have the California, Oregon, and just by pure population voting, they want to vote for. I mean, come on, half of the people in California would vote for a dictator right now.
Oh yeah,
They'd be happy.
I mean, they already have basically. I mean, look at Moonbeam. Our.
He's my favorite.
Oh yeah, he's just an awesome guy. That and he stands up there and says, "Oh, well, California is all freeloaders." It's like, dude, we're paying for everything for you, and we pay they just said, "Oh, the gas price in America has gone up to $2.47." I'm like, we're paying like $3.50 a gallon out here because of Mr. Moonbeam and his gas taxes, which he said was only going to be spent on the road, and then turns around and opens it up for the general fund and everything. It's just ridiculous,
Yeah, well, but I mean a true dictator, somebody that says, I'm going to be the president for life and I'm going to get rid of Congress.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I honestly think that you get 50-50 right in California, and I used to live out there, so don't yell at me because I'm...
Yeah, no, I don't.
I think
my kids are from California, not me.
I know, but I grew up out there. I was born out there, so I'm not just pontificating here. I can't tell New York, right. I guess, but in California, I think 50-50. If you had somebody stand up and say, I'm going to be the dictator of your life, I'm going to get rid of Congress, I'm going to get rid of the House and Senate and all this stuff, and I am going to be in charge of everything, and I will take care of you, and here's what I'm going to do, as long as it goes down
with their belief system,
with their policy, they're going to say, okay, and they'd vote for him. And it's just, so, yeah.
That's spooky, but it's true. I hate to say it, but it is. It's really spooky.
Which kills me, because I'm just like, I'm one of the few fans, actually real fans of Donald Trump. He got elected, and I was actually happy, and he started to run, and I was like, he'd make an interesting president. I think it would be a cool time to be alive. And I voted for him because I wanted to vote for somebody, not just against people. But if at the end of his term, if he gets voted out in a couple years and he says, nope, I'm not going anywhere, I'm going to be the dictator. See, this is where I think the people in flyover country are a little different. I like him, but I'd turn against him in a heartbeat if he does that. He wants to be a dictator, I'd be one of the ones picking up arms to lead the charge against him, because nope, we ain't doing that. I go with the Constitution. So you got half of the people that are going, nope, I'll go with the Constitution. The other ones are like, well, that doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah, the Constitution is kind of old and dusty. Well, we can try something new.
Ugh. Yeah, so I'm glad this is just a thought experiment, and your books are fun fiction, and we don't really do this.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I try to keep it light, and in the books, it's obviously it's post-apocalyptic, so it's going to be a lot of serious topics. But I also try to present both sides of every story, so that you don't just think, oh, they're just the evil people over there, because I really don't believe that there are very many purely evil people. I think that people just have different causes than what other people do, and they feel very passionate about whatever cause they're on. And, sometimes it's just different, and that's how it works in a republic, is we bring all these ideas together to try and suit the better good, the what's good for the most amount of people in the country. So, I try to do both sides and keep it light and keep it realistic so people can have a thought process about it instead of just being told to do one thing or the other.
The trains are running on time. It's okay.
Right? Yeah, it's good. It's good. Well, Ben, I think that about covers it for our citizens versus military. Thank you so much for your time. Why don't you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you and get information on your classes again?
Cool. Go check out modernselfprotection.com. That's my website. That's where everything is. That's where I do posts and blogs. If Facebook, I'm Modern Self Protection. That's hard. All of everything, I'm Modern Self Protection. That's my brand. And I try to do practical stuff. I don't do the super duper military kick down the doors anymore. I do self-defense for everyday people.
Yeah, it's a great podcast. I've learned like oodles and oodles and oodles from listening to your podcast. So thank you for your great work.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. And I love your books, and I can't wait to, keep them coming so I can keep reading them.
Hey, I'm working on it. I got so many projects right now, but pretty soon the project's got to go on hold because book 5 is coming before we know it. So, alrighty. Well, thanks a lot.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ben, so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time. Every time you come on, it's always great to have you. And you really gave us some great insight into, just different ways that the citizens could stand up against the government if they ever had to. And if that time ever came, what that would kind of look like. So thankfully, it's just a thought exercise. And we pray to God that that never happens. And we respect our republic's process of how to create laws and make laws and solve the problems of the people out there. So, definitely just a thought exercise, but not a bad exercise to perform. So I got a great show again for you next week. Going into chapter 23, and I've got Brian Duff on talking about establishing a chain of command and why that is so important in your mag group. So until next time, remember, dream, survive, thrive.
Thank you for joining Sara for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, and Battle for the South at www.author.sarafhathaway.com. If you love Sara's books and this podcast, please head over to Amazon or iTunes and let everyone know by leaving a review.